I would also like to thank you for your position during the reading of elections when you tried to stop the process. But Kivuitu, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, refused. My name is Makozewe. We have never met before. I'm personally interested on this issue going on in Kenya, and this is what inspired me to write my book, Raila Odinga's Stolen Presidency, Consequences and the Future of Kenya. Having said that, we have seen your documentary, and there is a lot of emphasis on the question of redress, the question of addressing impunity, the question of human rights violations. But on the other hand, today, as we stand here, there is no political opposition in Kenya because the major parties are in the coalition government. And even if the elections were called tomorrow, the same elements that are there today are going to end up in the next government. We have also talked here about how to address this. Now, my question to you is, the whole thing is about ethnicity, and you have talked a lot about ethnicity. Now, is there any possibility of class-based politics surfacing in Kenya? Because if you remove ethnicity from the political dimension, then there is a huge vacuum. What is your assessment of the risk factors when human rights defenders who are not even challenging the establishment are being killed? Has the civil society, the NGOs, been converted into business enterprises? Because somebody cannot convince Kenyans that we don't have the ideas. What we have seen is that there is no way of fighting this tribalism without alternative politics. I've written a book about this question. It's banned in Kenya. Gidongo's book by Wright has been banned in Kenya. So what is your risk assessment? Is the establishment so much scared about the emergence of an alternative opposition that is even preventing Kenyans from filling the political vacuum in the opposition? Or what is your perspective? Thank you.
I think that, the easiest way to organize people and to therefore get power is organize people ethnically. It's a raw emotion. It doesn't need much sense. You don't have to do much. It's a patronage-based system. So our political class has decided and has operated on that basis since 1963. Yeah, because I think before that there was real class distinction between Kanu and Kadu, especially before independence. But once the merge of Kanu and Kadu came together, there was no more ideology. So when KPU rose in '66 and was born, you notice the very first thing that Kenyatta and Boya did was to say that if you cross over from the ruling party, you must resign your seat. So that meant that all the Kikuyus, the Kambas, the Kalenjins who were supporting KPU could not cross over. They didn't cross over because they would lose their seats. And that's how Bibilia Kagia lost his parliamentary seat in '66, because he crossed over to KPU with Jaramogi Odinga, and then he went for election and lost miserably, because then it became ethnic, and the whole idea was to turn KPU into a quote-unquote Luo party. That's why the only MPs elected on KPU in '66 general elections were Luo, because of Jaramogi Odinga. So there's a real history to take me backwards how this thing was formed. Now, have there been attempts and efforts? I think, yes, I think that Ford, at its creation, was basically a social democratic party, or a movement when it was the Young Turks. But once they got the old guard, it began changing again, and they split over time and things went haywire. There have been attempts, and I think that the political class on every side fears genuine class-based attempts to organize people. They fear it, because you're going to shatter them completely. You're going to show that they're naked. So every single time that happens, there's an onslaught at you in every form. They'll attack you, you'll be attacked in every way, they'll find obstacles out there, because you're challenging every single thing. Because at the end of the day, our politicians today, they may fight with each other, they may disagree, but when they sit down to agree they'll share to eat. They share to eat. That they agree to, which is why you find them sharing that power today very comfortably. That they'll agree on. So as long as they're eating and they can say, you go take care of your people, bring them to the table, that they don't mind. So they may have competition about who takes the top job. That's about it. So it is a real challenge, and I think, Osama, you're absolutely right. It's a challenge for all of us. I'm not sure it's left to human rights defenders, human rights organizations. I think it's all of us as Kenyans to start going backwards, because going back to the Kenyan people, because the challenge is the Kenyan people are the ones who vote in these tribal kingpins. They vote them in. It's not, they don't come in just like that. They're voted in by Kenyans. So Kenyans themselves have got to start questioning, why haven't we moved there? So it's where we have to put our work at. It's where we need to put our energies. One of the reasons why we want to go with this film across the country is basically that, to try and show the poor Kikuyu and the poor Luo and the poor Kalenjin. You're in the same lot. You're going to be shot and killed at random, and nobody gives a damn. So why you go and kill each other is stupid. It doesn't make sense. So but that's a process, and I don't think it's going to happen overnight, because at the end of the day, the Kalenjin farmer with 1 or 2 acres will most likely trust a Kalenjin than trust a Luya with a message, for whatever reason. That's something we have to work on. We have to work with and work through over time. Now, this is where now, when we are looking at that, where we can now come to international human rights groups and say, you know other parts of the world where similar problems have existed. How have those things been addressed? How have they been dealt with? How did the countries with similar ethnic issues break that and form class-based or class-based issues as a way to organize people?